Hello friends, my name is AJ and welcome to my channel. This is going to be part 2 of the in-depth review for Unit 7 of AP Computer Science, which is ArrayList. So, this particular practice test is in the description that I made for you, and I will be going over the answers for the practice test in this particular video. Part 1, I actually went over all of the different concepts for the unit, and then this particular part, I will be going over the practice test. If you haven't tried it already, I definitely recommend trying it. If you go to the description below and you download it, you can definitely try it. It's only six multiple choice questions and then 1 FRQ. And the FRQ is, again, extremely styled toward how the AP College Board may actually style their question, and it is based off of the formatting from the released FRQs. So without further ado, let's get started with number 1 and going over the answers. So it says first, which of the following are true about ArrayList? So about the ArrayList class. The first thing it says is it is best to use arrays over ArrayLists when working with less structured data. That is definitely not true. You want to actually use ArrayList over arrays when working with less structured data. Then it says programmers may opt to use arrays rather than ArrayList to save space in RAM, as well as if their data has a specific rigid structure. That is definitely true, because arrays will actually use up a specific amount of RAM, while ArrayLists may not, because arrays have a set length in the beginning, so they are allotted a certain amount in RAM. Then the third question says arrays are more versatile than ArrayList objects. That's not true, because ArrayLists are definitely more versatile in the sense that you can add items, you can remove items, you can set items. There are a lot of things you can do with arrays ArrayLists that you cannot do with arrays. So knowing this, the correct answer would be B, 2 only. Okay, so now we're going to go to number 2. It says, which of the following code snippets properly creates an ArrayList object that will store string objects? Now, if you read ahead to other questions in the actual thing, like questions 3 and 4, you see the correct way to do it. But this is mainly for you to check to make sure that you actually know. I understand that the next questions probably give away the answer, but it's definitely important to be able to know this. So if you're actually going in order and are not skipping around and are not using your clues in the actual test, I definitely, this question is more to actually check. Do you actually know? Do you have to look, or do you actually know how to do it, right? And the correct answer will be C. So the first thing you do is you do the ArrayList class name, you use the brackets, and then in the brackets you put the reference type of the data that's actually going to be stored. You put the name of the array equals, then you use the new keyword ArrayList again, the caret brackets or the arrow brackets, then the type again, and then your parentheses to run the constructor. So C is definitely correct. Number 3, what is the output of the code below? So I create a new string ArrayList, and the first thing I do is I add. So I'm going to kind of create my little, I'm going to add some lines here. And the reason I'm going to add some lines is that I can kind of visualize what my ArrayList is going to look like as I'm doing these operations. The first thing is I have mylist.addA. So I first add A as my first item. Then I'm setting my value at index 0 to B. So if I write my indexes, remember it always starts at 0. So now I'm setting my value here from A to B. Then to my list, I'm going to be adding C to my list, just like this, right? Then I'm going to be adding D to my list right here. Now I have my add 2. So at this point, I'm going to be adding the value of E to index 2. So I'm going to be inserting E right here where D currently is. So I need to move D out of the way. This D will move from index number 2 to number 3, and E will take its place at index number 2. So now knowing this, I can look at my answer choices and I can say that D is the correct answer because it is in the order B, C, E, D. All right, so now it says, which of the following is the output of the code below? So this time I have an integer array. So again, I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to add, and this time I'm only going to do 3 lines because I see all my answer choices have 3 lines, so I only need to have 3 lines. I can write in my indexes of 0, 1, and 2 to help me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the number 1 to my array list. Now I'm going to be adding the number 2 at index location 0. So again, because I want my 2 to actually be added here, I need to move 1 over to the right, and that will change from index 0 to index 1, and now I can add 2 in its place. Now I have remove 1. So now I'm going to be removing the value that's at index 1. So I'm going to be removing the number 1, just like that. Now I have the add 3. So I will now add 3 to the end of my array list. And then the last thing I have is I'm going to have add 1, 4. So what this means is I'm going to add the number 4 at the index position of 1. So I'm going to be adding it right here. Because there's already a value there, I need to move that out of the way. So I'm going to move that to the right, and then I can insert 4 right there. So after doing this, I can say that my correct answer is going to be D243. All right. So now, let's see, my thing's a little stuck here. Okay, now it's letting me. Okay, so I'll circle D. Now we go on to number 5. What is best accomplished by the loop below? So what I'm doing is, this is a simple traversing array list question, and I'm starting at the first position, and then because I have my increment of plus equals 2, I'm going to be reading every second value in my array list. And that is actually going to be answer choice letter B. Every second element are printed, just like that. All right, so now I'm going to be looking at number 6. Which of the following data types does ArrayList not support? So remember, ArrayList support only reference types. So let's look at our different answer choices and see which are reference types. First, I have int. Well, int is going to be primitive. Then I have string. String is going to be a reference. Then I have double, which is going to be reference. And remember, I know it's reference because it has a capital letter here. And then this will be reference as well. So because the ArrayList only supports reference types and not primitive types, it will not support a int. So that is pretty much it for section 1, which is the multiple choice section. It's actually, this was not that bad at all, as long as you were able to understand a few of the things, such as this last question about primitive reference types, and then using the methods of ArrayList. Now we're going to get into the very long part, which literally takes up, if you look on the side here, it takes up probably 6 pages. This is going to be the section 2 free response question. Now, I've modeled this question very similar to how the actual question could be written by the College Board. So when I write it in a specific format like this is the same format that the College Board uses on the AP exam. And this is reminiscent of what you see also on the released free responses. So I've modeled this way so that I can kind of help you to get more familiar with that actual format. So the first thing it says is this question involves the management of students' assignments. Managing student assignments, right? That are represented by the following assignment class. So the assignment class will represent these students' assignments. So let's see what our actual class looks like. Well, I have many different things in my class. The first thing is I have my fields. So I will color code this as fields. Then I have my constructor, which is right here. And then I have my methods. So let's see each of these components. The first thing is that I have 4 fields. I have the name of the assignment, the course that the assignment is for, days until due, which is how many days are left basically until the assignment is due, and then we have a description, which is also a string. We have the constructor, which will create our new object, and it takes in 4 parameters, just like this. Then we have the 4 get methods, and the get name will return the name, get course will return the course, this should say get here, get days until due, and then get description, just like that. Then we have, now it says that the next page, you will implement 2 methods of the agenda class. So I'm introducing you to 2 different classes in this particular question. It says you will implement 2 methods of the agenda class. And now here you can see this is my agenda class. I have my singular field this time, which is an array list of assignment objects. I then have my constructor, which does not take any parameters. And then I have my methods. And I have 2 methods that I'm actually going to be working on in my question. The first one is adds an assignment to the assignments list. And this method is named add to agenda, and it takes in an assignment parameter. And it says in comments here, to be implemented in part A, which means that we will be writing the code for this in part A. Then the second one says remove assignment. So that's the name. And then it has a parameter, a string parameter, which is name. And then this says in the comment that it's going to remove an assignment from the assignments list based on the inputted name. And then there's a precondition that says all assignments have a unique name, no duplicate names. Okay, so now that we know that these are the 2 things that we'll be working on, let's look at question A. It says, write the agenda method add to agenda. This method will add an assignment object to the assignments list, key here, in order based on the days until due field value of the assignment. Note, assume assignments list is already sorted. So this is assuming that it's already sorted when you're running this method. It says if, for example, if the assignments list were initialized to the following, and we know what each of these values are because we know the constructor for assignment. If I go up here to the assignment constructor, you can see it goes in the order of name, course, days until due, and description. So days until due is going to be the 3rd thing. And of course, it's an integer. So here, this is going to be my days until due values. So it says that if this was initialized to the following, where my days until due are going to be 6, 8, and 9, 6, 8, and 9, and then I want to add a new agenda with add a new assignment with the days until due being 7, it's going to be placed right here in order. Remember, you can see this is in ascending order, just like that. And then if I were to add the number 8, then you can see that it is placed here. So basically what this is saying is that if it does have the same number as another one, it's placed before it in the list. And that says explicitly right here, in the case where the days until due are equal, the new item will be added before the already existing entries with that value. All right, now we have this giant box, and this box is going to be reminiscent to something you also see in the exam, and it's pretty much just information for you, a consolidated list of all of the different parts of the class. So I have my assignment class, and it shows me all the fields in the class, the constructor in the class, and the methods of the class, and it does that for all 3 of these. And now we go to the actual question. Complete the add to agenda method below. And the comment again says added an assignment to the assignments list. And remember, you have to add the assignment based on the days until due value. So we have to put it in order. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do open and close parentheses. Now, the way I'm going to do this is a little bit different. And again, when I'm using FRQs, I have to combine everything from all of the different units. So the first thing I want to do is if I want to add this in a certain position, I need to find where I want to add it. So I'm going to say int index to add equals 0, just like that. So I'm initially starting my basically search to where I need to be at 0. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a while loop. And you may be wondering, why am I doing a while loop instead of a for loop? And this is because I actually want 2 different conditions. So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to be creating a Boolean which says found index, and it's going to be set to false. So I have a Boolean that's basically saying that when I find the index, I want to stop searching. I want to stop going beyond. And then I'm going to create a new counter variable. I'm going to say int I equals 0, just like that. Then I'm going to do while found index, like this, equals false, and I is less than what is the name. And again, I can refer to my box to figure out the name of my field. It's going to be assignment, so I have to do less than, and I'm actually going to make this 2 lines so it's easier to see. And this dot assignments dot size. So while those 2 things are true, right, I can then, just like that, open and close parentheses. I then want to set my value. So I want to say index to add, or if, like this, or actually I'll say index to add equals I. So what I'm doing is I keep increasing my index to add, just like this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if, like this, if this dot assignments dot get I, so I'm getting now the value, is greater than or equal to the value of my input assignment. Actually, I want to say dot days until due. So get and then dot days until due. Days until due is greater than or equal to assignment dot days until due, like this. If that is true, oops, sorry about that. If the one is greater than or equal to, that means that I have to stop searching, because it means at that point that I have reached where I want to actually input my value. So I'm going to say found index equals false. Just like that. Found index equals true. So when I set this to true, it will stop the loop, and my index to add will be set to where I actually want to add my value to. And then simply, now that this is done, this code right here pretty much finds where I want to add it, and it stores it to my index to add variable. Then inside of here, I can simply, let's see what this was part of. This was part of my while loop right here. So once I can move this up here, and that will end the while loop. Then what I can say is I can do a simple if-else statement now. I can say if, like this, if the index to add is less than my assignments dot size, then I can simply do assignments dot add, and then I can say index to add, which is where I want to add it. Remember, the add method has the index first, then the thing I want to add, and then the assignment that I want to add, just like that. And then else, I can just say assignments dot add assignment. And what does this mean? This simply means that if my index to add is actually equal to the size, that means that I have traversed the entire thing, and it is it has to basically, there's nowhere I can add it except for the end. And to add it to the end, I simply run this right here. So that is going to be the final solution for the add to agenda method. This one takes a little bit of thinking through, especially with the while loop, because I haven't necessarily talked about while loops. And in fact, look at that. I already found one error right there. And that's going to be that at the end, you have to add I++. I don't know if anybody caught that, but because I'm looping using the I as my counter, I need to make sure to increment my I. So that's pretty much the final solution for this one. This one's a lot more complicated than what the next one's going to be. So now I'm going to scroll down, and now I'm on part B. Write the agenda method remove assignment. This method will remove an assignment object from the assignments list that has the same name as the input parameter. So it says, for example, if the assignments list was initialized to the following, if we run assignment this, the list should change to the following. Basically meaning that it's going to remove the assignment with the name that we input. So this one is going to be not that bad. We can scroll down to our question and we can do open and close parentheses. Now what we're going to do is, again, we have to create a new int variable called int index. This time instead of index to add, we can say index to remove. And we can set that equal to 0, just like this. Now this time I can simply do an ordinary for loop. I can do an ordinary for loop. So I can say for int I equals 0, I less than my assignments, so this dot assignments dot size, I++, like that, open, close parentheses. And what I want to say is if, like this, if, in fact, I want to set my index to remove equal to -1. And I'm going to do an explanation why. So then I'm going to say if here, if my, if this dot assignments dot get, and I get the value at the current index, dot name is equal to the name variable, which is my string input, then I want to say index to remove equals the index I right there. And the reason why I don't need to check if there's going to be duplicates is because there's a precondition that all will have a unique name, which is why this will work properly, just like that. And this needs to be a double equal sign right here. I want to make sure I didn't make that mistake up here. No, I did not. Yeah, so right here, this has to be double equals because it's going to be the if statement. So then after this for loop, I am simply going to do another if statement. And this if statement is going to check if index to remove is greater than -1, then I'm going to do assignments dot remove assignments dot remove index to remove. Just like that. And then I'm going to have an else right here. And the reason why I left this number as -1 is because what if my value that I actually want to remove is at 0, right? And so if it's only going to be at -1 if I did not find something to remove. And basically, if there's nothing to remove, I don't need to do anything because there's just nothing to remove. And it didn't ask me to print out something or do something if there was nothing there. But what you could do is, if you wanted to, you could add an else statement to this, else, and then maybe have a print statement or something, and that will tell that will say in the output that nothing could be removed at that index. But that is pretty much all of the code that's necessary for the remove assignment method. So this was a very long and very wordy kind of practice section for the FRQ. But this is how you'll see it on the AP exam. Or at least this is how it has been since like for pretty much the existence of the actual course. If you go into the website, you can see all of the archived FRQs, all of the previous ones, and this one matches the exact structure of all of the ones where you have the class first. They talk about the class. They'll then have a detailed instructions, what they want from you. They'll then have a box that says, for example, the information for the question, and then they'll have a space for you to actually complete it. So when you're actually going to be doing this on the computer, if you're doing this in 2020, there may be a slightly different structure where they may, they'll probably have like a text box for you to input their code inside of here. So where my writing is, there may be like a text box or something. We will not know that until obviously either the exam or until they have some sort of tutorial where they go through the site. But for right now, we're going based on how it was on paper, and then we can kind of make assumptions that they're generally probably going to keep the very similar structure because the question type is still the same. So the actual type of questions using ArrayList is still going to be in the same way, and oftentimes they will do it like this, where they have two different classes, one for the type that's going to be in the ArrayList, and then for the actual ArrayList manager itself. In this case, the type for the ArrayList was assignments, and then the agenda class was going to be the manager of the ArrayList. I hope that this practice test was helpful for you. If you have any questions, definitely leave them in the comment section below, and I will answer them. If you liked the video, please feel free to like and subscribe for more content, and as always, thanks for watching.